Hey guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad. My name is Austin.
And my name is Patrick.
And guys, welcome to our show.
Yeah, we got AVT and PAT. They talking about young Americans overseas. We got McKinney, Pulisic, Reina, and Des. Got that red, white, and blue USA on the crest. From England, Germany, from Belgium to Spain. Racking up all the medals on the trophy train. Got one thing on their mind, we're scaling some love. One day we can say we will win the World Cup.
Well, guys, we're excited to be back for this episode today. Club seasons have ended, right, Pat? So now we're into that summer prep period for the USMNT.
Yeah, that's right. We'll get into it, the Friendlies, Nation League, even the U20s, right? It's been a whirlwind for club, right? A lot of storylines, obviously ending here with Horvath and Nottingham, right? Getting promoted back into the Premier League.
It's your boy.
But so much, yeah, my boy there. So much to get into, and it's kind of like a breath of fresh air to recharge in terms of club, but also stay sharp, right? Stay focused because we have a World Cup to get prepared for, Austin.
Yeah, and we also have the U20 CONCACAF Championship this summer kicking off later this month. And, that Mexico roster, I don't know if you saw, Pat, but we've got a few dual knots on that roster that's pretty interesting. We don't know our roster just yet, so it'll be fun to hear about that and watch that tournament this summer, right? A lot on the line to play for at the youth stage.
Yeah, quite a lot. I think it's World Cup and Olympic berths. So I mean, two pretty critical tournaments that we need to really perform in.
Yeah, that's really true. So we want to kind of go through the summer today, or at least the month of June, and kind of chart out what it looks like for the USMNT. And, we got an awesome roster we want to cover. We also want to take a look at the two friendlies and then also our Nations League games after that. So, just to start it off, Pat, I just want to get your initial reaction on, the roster that dropped last week. What were your thoughts about that roster? What players stood out to you?
Yeah, initial thoughts. I'm just starting with the back here, going through the list. I'm happy to see again. And just a big question, right? With unfortunate injury to Miles Robinson. We have EPB, CCV there, the Scottish Yankee, to see who can kind of step up in that role. And then Joe Scally, Austin. We've talked about him a lot, clamoring for him, and it's good to see him back as well. So I was pretty happy from a defensive perspective there. And then obviously, more in and around that German world, but Malik Tillman. That's a huge notable name on the roster too.
Yeah. I was really excited to see Malik on this roster. I know we don't know a lot about where he's going to play with this team, right? He's listed as a midfielder.
Yep.
So we're guessing kind of in those dual 10 or dual 8 positions. That's kind of where we'll see him, but maybe we'll see him as a winger as well. And it's good just to have him in the camp, right? He's made his switch, right? So he's going to play for us going forward. And I'm just, again, it could be another Yunus Musa situation where it's a young player that's, trying to get more playing time at a good club, right? Or, in a good league and maybe that playing time's not there, but this is his opportunity to showcase his talents and create more of a name for himself. So I'm super excited about him. Also, Joe Scally, like you said, love seeing him on this roster. Really think he could be, a dark horse backup, at either outside back position for the World Cup. So really like seeing him. And then obviously Haji Wright too, right? Another name we've talked about more this spring. Had a really good season in Turkey, right? Had double-digit goals, was really one of our leading goal scorers abroad this season. So really thought that this was a good token for him. And again, an opportunity that I think he's deserved over this past year. And now it's time to see what he can do on the field, right? He's one of two forwards on this roster. Him and Jesus Ferreira are the only out-and-out forwards on this team. So, if that's any indication of what we're going to see for this upcoming window, I think we're going to see a lot of opportunities for Haji Wright. So I thought that was really cool to see him in this camp.
And quick on that, really good shout for Haji and just the 9, right? I mean, it's wide open. The race is wide open. Yeah. It's for the taking for these players.
Unfortunately.
Pereira's, unfortunately, yeah. I mean, we have Pereira, even Weah, right? We can get into that. At Lille has slotted into that 9 type of role. So it'll be really interesting to see who steps up to the plate against pretty tough competition, friendlies, and obviously with the Nations League where we are defending our title, Austin. So yeah, who's going to be that goal scorer for us?
Yeah, and I think, the other thing we got to cover in this segment too is there's been some injuries, right? Or two players that have been pulled out from this roster. So the first one, Zack Stefan. So, was on that team of, Man City that won the Premier League, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. So it sounds like he's going to be with family, right? He has some family engagements he had to pull out for. So Sean Johnson called up in his absence. Again, it kind of leaves us wondering who's going to be the starting goalkeeper for this team. And I think we have a lot of confidence in, two of those three goalkeepers, right? Matt Turner, someone that we've seen a lot of and think he's really talented. And then also Ethan Horvath, who stepped up in some big moments and, now is part of a team that's getting promoted too next year to the Premier League. So I don't know. I was really disappointed to see Zach again not part of this team and kind of another, thing that's kind of been brought up to take away some playing time for him. So just something else to kind of watch out for, I guess. And then Georgie Mihalovic, another player we were really excited to see called up. He's been killing it in MLS for the past year, ever since moving to Montreal. He actually got injured this past weekend. So, unfortunately, Pat, we're not going to be able to get to see him in this camp and, maybe not the World Cup either now.
Yeah, you could see he was visibly upset. It was really early on. I think the first, 5 minutes or so that he pulled up with that injury. So getting an MRI, more to come on that. But yeah, pretty unlikely that he'll be with this group. So it's tough, right? It is timing, with these injuries and all those factors. So definitely disappointing, right? And hope everything's okay with Zach. But yeah, just have Georgie miss out on this opportunity. But we have a lot of other guys, from the back with CCV, seeing Luca De La Torre really establish himself against stronger opponents here, up to Haji in the position there. So there's still plenty of more. I think even Greg said it during his interviews. For some of these fringe guys, right? We know who the locks are. Your Adams, your Musa, McKennie's, your CP, right? But there's a lot of open spots, right? For those that can join this group and make a huge difference in Qatar.
Yeah, I agree fully with that. So, Pat, do you want to pivot now and look at the first opponent we're gonna, face here in the coming week, Morocco?
Yeah, that's right. An interesting, opponent there that had a really successful run for African qualifying, right, going undefeated. So it'll be a huge test this Wednesday. And I believe, Austin, are they playing that game in Ohio? I think it's in Ohio.
Let me check and I'll get back to you.
No, yeah, I think it's Cincinnati. We have a pretty good record in Ohio. It's either that or Q2 Stadium, right? So one of the other common places we play. Nonetheless, this Wednesday, so be sure to check that out. And yeah, just to dive into this opponent, kind of a mix between veterans. You got some young players as well. A lot of European-based players in the squad, Austin. So really competitive teams. We have, just to start off, right, a few that play for Sevilla, right? A very, very strong Spanish team. We have players in Serie A, the Prem, the Wolves. Obviously, Ajax before too. So all across the board, they have some pretty incredible talent. But some of the Sevilla players, right? We talked off camera. We got with Youssef Es Nasiri. I might have butchered that, but he's one of three. He was the team's leading scorer with 12 goals and 48 appearances. Obviously, a Bono, right? A tremendous keeper who won Keeper of the Year in La Liga. I mean, he's unbelievable. And one of the vice captains during qualifying. And then you have Madir El Haddadi, so a third Sevilla player. Obviously, you have in the back the team captain, right? Another one, and the staple of their defense, Saiss. He's 32. He's the most experienced player on the team, and a member of Wolves, who finished very, very well. I think one of their stronger seasons in the Premier League, in the top 10. So a few other players there, you could say, quote unquote, star players, right, of the team won't be with the squad or won't be playing for these friendlies. That's Hakimi, right, the PSG, right back there, and then obviously Mazraoui too. who is going to Bayern. So that will be an interesting move. Another Ajax man there. So those two, I believe, won't be playing. One for rest, right, just to kind of recoup through the summer, and then another through injury. Another player that's absent, Austin, but just to show you the depth and power that Morocco has, is Ziyech, who has had some difficulties with the coach. So that's wild. A long-winded story. I don't want to get too much into it, but there's been some friction. He has essentially announced his retirement from international football. I don't know when that's going to change. It's World Cup's right on the corner. But it does seem like the coach there is pretty old school, pretty stringent and stuck, right, on his training, his methods. And I think there was some kind of conflict there with some of the stars. So interesting to see about that. But, the rest of the squad, again, Austin, has bought in. They went undefeated in qualifying. They had a really good campaign in African Cup of Nations. Fell short there, but a really, really strong team, to face off in the friendlies. So wanted to throw it to you quickly and get your take on some of their players and talent.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing hearing that they're not bringing all their best players, or there's reasons for all their best players not being there. But again, like you said, they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of players playing in some of the best leagues in Europe. So I really thought this was a home run, friendly opponent for us. I think it's a team that models somewhat similar to Iran. I think that's somewhat fair to say. I think there is a lot of differences in terms of, again, the level of quality, right? I think this is a better team than Iran, even with some of those absences. But in terms of, style of play, again, just similar backgrounds of, I feel like, players coming from a smaller nation or national league and trying to make their way in Europe. I think it's similar to, a lot of the opponents we're going to face in the World Cup, right? A lot of similar backgrounds with some of these teams that, have a lot to play for, right? They're very prideful in their country. So I like that. And yeah, this is a team that went undefeated in, the Africa qualifying process.
Right.
That's no small task, right? That's really impressive. So yeah, I really like this friendly. I think it's going to be a great test for our team.
Yeah, and just quickly, like you said, with the playing style, it'll be very similar. I think that's a good shout there with Iran. And again, it'll be unique to see, again, Greg's systems, right, and tactics up against some of these really strong competitors in the World Cup, completely different than some of the CONCACAF opponents we're used to. They play, again, a very high block, high line. They want to press us, right, cause a lot of turnovers. We've seen a few slip-ups, right? I'll even say from the Acosta, I think Moose has had a few qualifying, and again, taking those risks and dares. But these are players, right, that are going to capitalize. They're going to poach, and they are going to punish you, right, for some of those mistakes. So they press the high block there. They want to get their fullbacks right into the mix, send balls in early to their dangerous attackers there, Parsavia there, like I mentioned. So they're not the best in open play, right? Dominating possession all the time. So they might give some more of the ball, but again, the slightest error, they will, full force press and capitalize on that.
Yeah, which will be a great test for our players, right? Like I think these first two friendlies are going to be so important just to get a pulse of how our team plays in some of these different situations. And I really hope they're treated like that, right? Like these are tune-up matches. Like this is the last window before, the final window before World Cup qualifying or the World Cup. And they need to be treated like that. So yeah, I think this is a great opponent, and, it should prove to be, a great experience for our players, right? You talked about trying to get some of that cohesion, and yeah, really dealing with pressure. I mean, I think we need to see confidence in these games, right, Pat? Like some of those, final World Cup qualifiers, some of the play we've seen in the Nations League and CONCACAF Gold Cup, right? Just, putting it all out on the field and really trying to step up in these moments, because now it's showtime, right?
Yeah, no, it certainly is showtime, Austin. And again, Morocco, a very, very strong team. Great to face different teams from different regions, right, too. That's what the World Cup's all about. So I'm pretty happy with who we organized for these friendlies, right? And excited to see, the future there too. Obviously, Nations League, we're stuck with our region, so it's great to have these different opponents. And you could argue, right, the following friendly this coming Sunday is going to be an even tougher test but that's that flair, that South American style, Austin. If you want to take it away.
Yeah, so Uruguay is another great opponent. And just to look at them real quick, they finished third in the CONMEBOL World Cup standings. So I think they were behind Brazil and Argentina.
Pretty strong teams, Austin.
Yeah, two really strong teams, and again, this is a strong team as well, right? This is one of the best teams in South America, and yeah, they really proved it in qualifying. They got drawn into Group H in the World Cup, so Portugal, South Korea, and Ghana are their other opponents in that group. Some could argue this is one of the group of death groups because South Korea is a really talented team with Heung-min Son. Obviously, Portugal we know with Ronaldo, and Ghana have a rich history at the World Cup. So as much as this is a tune-up for us, this is also a really good tune-up match for them. A lot of their players, kind of like Morocco, right, play in Europe. And if they don't play in Europe, they play in some really good teams in South America, River Plate is a easy example of one of those teams in South America. We last played them in 2019. So when you think back to that game a little bit, this was actually the game before Serginho Dest's international future announcement. So it was really wild looking back. We tied them 1-1. I think we had a late goal. But if I remember right, we didn't play up to our best in that game. And again, it was a lot different of a roster, right, Pat? Looking back through some of those names, like Daniel Lovitz, Brad Guzan was on the team then. A lot
like
different.
Eons ago, Austin. Again, I don't know if COVID's accelerated that, but that just feels like eons ago. And a great memory, great shout with Serginho Dest.
It was interesting because that was one of those games I always remember. It was such a big game, right? It was our last involvement of Serginho on the pitch, and he played against Mexico, I think, in his first game, and it was just really important. So it was kind of funny looking back at the last time we played them. So looking at this game, Luis Suarez obviously is one of the main figures of this team, or has been for many years. He's not with the team this window. I think it's mostly just due to his playing time this season. He's 35 now, so it's not surprising when you think of it in that lens, right, that he's not with this team. There's a lot to be determined with his future this year, so they will be missing him, but they still have a lot of talent on this team, right? So they have Edinson Cavani still there. Darwin Nunez is another really talented player currently at Benfica right now. That's a great striker, someone who's an up-and-comer. He'll be fun to watch. Fede Valverde is supposedly on this team. We'll see if he actually comes now that they won the Champions League.
Yeah,
but they have
don't remind me, Austin. Don't remind me.
Yeah, Liverpool fan over there.
It still hurts. Valverde is a tremendous player, though.
Yeah, he's really good. And they have some other younger players that are really exciting too, right? Like Facundo Pellistri, the player that went to Man United last year, was on loan in La Liga this year. He's actually played a lot of their games in World Cup qualifying. You also have Diego Rossi, who used to be on LAFC and MLS. So they've got a lot of talented players, a lot of good center backs too on this team. So again, Pat, this will be a really talented test for us. And again, looking at the World Cup, a team like Uruguay, it could even be Uruguay, is a team we could face, if we get out of our group. I think this is a really good test for us.
Yeah. Again, another friendly I'm very ecstatic for and interested to see how we play, right? Albeit friendly, keep in mind the result there, but really depends on how we play. It's a team that, again, going to capitalize on your mistakes. They're going to push around. They're going to bully, especially some of their center backs and fullbacks. If we don't have a strong hold up play, their number 9 or our wings aren't connected, they're taking too much time on the ball and just not being efficient in the final third, they're going to push us around. So I'm really intrigued to see how we go against some of those stingent South American defenders and defenses. And then obviously with our midfielders, right? We've come to love MMA and even Luca De La Torre being added. How is he going to handle the creative, the flair, right? The cohesion, honestly, and we'll get into that more right later. But of that midfield that Uruguay has as well. I mean, they are very, very fluid and did very well in their qualifying campaign, Austin.
Yeah, and honestly, this is a team that really likes to counterattack. And looking at some of the stats, they're constantly not the ball dominant team in all the games they play in. You even look at some of the smaller teams or the lesser teams they played against, like Venezuela. They finished last in their group, in World Cup qualifying, last in CONMEBOL, and they dominated possession against Uruguay,
really?
58-42. But Uruguay had 22 shots in that game. So, wow. And they won 4-1 as well. So, they're a team that really likes to counterattack. They're not dangerous with the ball. They're really dangerous without the ball. And again, I think when you talked about what we need to be careful of against Morocco in terms of limiting our mistakes, I think that's going to be even more heightened in this game. We're really going to have to be, on our stuff and again, this is that last like fine tune match before World Cup, right? So we need to be polished. We need to have cohesion. We need to, play together as a team, right? Defend as a team in some of those moments. And again, not having a center back on the pitch like Miles Robinson, who's really good one-on-one, is going to be a good test for some of these center backs, right? Who can kind of step up to that challenge when we're up the field and, they're maybe going on a quick counterattack, who can kind of step up and be a good one-on-one defender. So yeah, that was really interesting. I thought, just consistently, they're constantly not the ball dominant team in games. And
it's so intriguing too. And what we know from Greg, right, in our style and tactics, and again, we'll kind of break down what our takeaways are, right, and what we're expecting from these friendlies and what to look for. But just to quickly add, Austin, that point, Greg wants to win the ball back quick and dominate possession and dominate plays. So
right.
Kind of feeds into exactly what these opponents are. So really unique in the way that we pick these. And then again, great tune-ups for the actual World Cup and simulating that. So obviously it'll be a little different against England, but the other opponents, right? In the group and to be determined there too for the last final team. But yeah, it's just interesting how that aligns, right, for these friendlies. Kind of a perfect storm. If you might say that.
Yeah, I really agree, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think these two friendlies are going to be really influential for us. They should give us some, more context on how we're going to play, hopefully at the World Cup and what Greg Berhalter is looking at. But I guess real quick before we get to some of those takeaways, we also play 2 CONCACAF Nations League games in this window. Obviously, the most important of the matches this window, right, Pat? Against Grenada and El Salvador. Obviously, those take more precedence than the 2 friendlies.
Yeah, definitely awesome. If we don't score at least 6 against Grenada, then it's over.
Yeah,
I'll put up as a loss.
Exactly. I say that in jest, and obviously, I really think again, this is the start of the next CONCACAF Nations League window, right, or the next tournament, so to speak. So. I think both of these games are going to be good opportunities to get some of those other players in the mix, right? We talked about Haji Wright. We talked about Cameron Carter-Vickers. We talked about Joe Scally. Again, I want to see those players in some of these friendlies, but I really think these are opportunities for them to, again, get more confidence in a USMNT shirt, see what they can do and maybe have a less pressure environment. And again, just get more game time, right? Kind of get some more fresh faces on the field. And I think these are, I don't know if this is the best thing for this window, but I do think it's nice to kind of have some really high energy games or really, games where we got to focus and play our best. And then some other games where we can kind of, experiment a little bit and kind of get some more, just fresh faces on the field. Right, Pat?
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. And of course, right, we want to defend our title. We're not losing the Nations League, right?
That's right.
We're inaugural winners, and we are going to continue that. And L Tree will continue to take more L's. But no, back to your points. Grenada obviously can do more tinkering there, and that's just a tough game in terms of getting data right and just being very cognizant of the level of competition to be transparent. But El Salvador, away against El Salvador, that's a tough team. Hugo Perez hasn't playing very well. They were very competitive, right? Albeit they didn't finish the best of the standings, but they were very competitive, and we had a tough time going away there. So I think that's a great game to get the confidence up against Grenada first, and then go into El Salvador and see who steps up there. Because obviously, like you said, these friendlies are huge tune-up World Cup games, but then to experiment with some of these Nations League games and see who steps up away, playing El Salvador right in that tough environment. I think a player like you said, a CCV or a Scally even, or a Haji, right? If he's putting in goals not only against Granada but also away El Salvador, we weren't able to do that, right, in World Cup qualifying. So
Yeah,
I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think that kind of leads us right into our takeaways for this window, right? Looking at the whole window, I'm going to pitch it to you first, Pat. What should we look for, coming away from this important, window this summer?
Yeah, first thing, Austin. I think this is important, right? Starting from the back, and that's the center back pairing. Obviously, it looks like Walker Zimmerman is going to be one of that quote unquote lock players, right? So who is going to be a center back partner? Just terrible, terrible timing. I really hope, again, speedy recovery. We've said it many times, but Miles Robinson, what he was able to do with the national team rise so quickly, I mean, you can't take that for granted. He was amazing during World Cup qualifying, and appreciate all of his efforts there. But who is going to pair with Zimmerman? Because Zimmerman's a very, again, aerial threat, right? Pretty physical and tough, but can get burned. And gets out of position sometimes and doesn't have maybe necessarily the agility and speed to catch some of these quick opponents or quick counters. So especially, right, if you have a Dest or you have a Robinson, right, bombing up the field, we're going to need a pretty quick, agile center back to be able to kind of help put out those fires like Robinson did. Is it going to be CCV? Is it going to be EPB? Some of those other guys there, Aaron Long. Personally, I also want to get your thoughts, but I really hope EPB steps up to the plate. It stinks that Richards is out too. I think Richards would have been fantastic, but I'm just not sure in terms of a CCV Zimmerman pairing. The speed there, I could see both of them getting burned pretty badly against some of the quicker opponents there on the counters. So that's the number one thing I think. With the goalkeeper situation, but who is going to pair with Zimmerman?
Yeah, and I really hate to see Chris Richards out with an injury again. I really hope he's healthy for the World Cup because, again, I think in an ideal world, he should be the player we get that, give that nod to now that Miles has gone down. I really think he's talented enough, right? He's shown that in the Bundesliga that he can be a talented defender, but just what he provides going forward too, right? Just picking out great passes, even being an aerial threat on corners and set pieces. I think he'd be a really nice player to just slot in there with Walker Zimmerman and kind of be that cover we're looking for. But like you said, without him, there's some options on the team, right? I also kind of second your EPB shout. I think he's a pretty mobile center back, right? He's playing at a good level this year, and he's someone that was. I think he was the captain of the U20 team a few years ago, someone who, has been regarded highly in the past. And I feel like we've kind of just forgotten about him. So I think he's got the talent. I think he just has to prove it and really kind of make us believers, but also make Greg Berhalter a believer that he can do a job, when called on. And again, like you said, hopefully Miles Robinson can recover, but it doesn't sound so great right now. I'm still holding out hope, Pat, that we see John Brooks on the World Cup roster.
Glad you mentioned.
I think there's a lot of reasons why it makes sense, but I'm not going to get on my soapbox tonight. So yeah, I think that's a great takeaway, Pat. The next one kind of goes along with that, right? I really want to see, who from Jesus Ferreira and Haji Wright, scores more goals this camp, right? Who's going to be the striker for this team? It's really wide open again. I'd love to see Ricardo Pepi at the World Cup, but if he's not starting out great with Augsburg, next year, and Jesus Ferreira is still in the form he's in right now, then again, I think Jesus Ferreira is a really good option. And I think, again, he's got to prove it in this window to show that he can not only do it at the club level, but also do it on the international stage and really combine with this team and be a dangerous goal-scoring threat. Same thing with Haji Wright too, right? Like this is his opportunity. He's been wanting an opportunity for a long time, and now he's really deserved it. So I just want to see, who can kind of step up from those two players. And as a team too, Pat, not just looking solely at them, we struggle to create chances against really good opposition. So these are two good, international opponents, two teams that we're going to face similar quality to in the World Cup. So can we create chances? Can Christian Pulisic be a goal scorer? Can Brendan Aronson be, someone who provides goals? Can Weston McKennie create and score goals? Can we, again, score goals as a team? As a team, can we score goals as a team and kind of have great team play and open up defenses? It's kind of been yet to be seen so far. So again, I really think that that's something we got to, see as a takeaway, right? That's one of my takeaways. That's what I think we need to see from this camp and these international opponents.
Yeah, awesome. That's so important and so vital. It's great to see. And it sounds like from camp, right? Haji is that has that strong mentality. It seems like things are aligning right to step up. But Ferreira also killing it for FC Dallas. I mean, you could even say Areola right in the wing. And then obviously Haji Wright in Turkey. So we have some, and you saw it too though. PFOC, fantastic, right? On the Golden Boot in the Swiss League, but from when it came to the national team, there was just kind of that. Seems like there's always been a disconnect with the 9 and some of the winger positions and just our attacking midfield. So being able to connect that together, right, and have somebody to put balls in the back of the net, we've really just yearned and lacked that for so long. And what better way to kind of break some of those, problems and issues than these friendlies in the Nations League games. So very interested to see who steps up. I think all these guys are coming to good form. They have the right mentality. And it's about just executing at the national team level. So really important. I'm glad you brought that up. And then lastly, right, the last point, I think a perfect segue with that too. And what I meant in terms of maybe not being clinical in the final third or having a disconnect with the 9 and the wingers, right? Austin, just from the entire team, right? I think cohesion's a huge component, a really vital number 3 point here to fine tune with these friendlies. We saw some really good glimpses. I think some combo plays, from the desk goal to really good interchange and plays with McKennie and Musa and Adams. If you look back, right, at some of the highlights, and build up to our goals with Timo too, we've played some tremendous soccer and football, right? The style that we're looking to implement, but not consistently. So to get everybody in terms of the patterns, right, understanding the tactics, we had this whole World Cup qualifying cycle. Now there's no excuses anymore. You got to put your knowledge to the test. You got to execute on the game plan, right? And making sure everybody, is pressing together, especially what Berhalter wants, against these opponents. If somebody's not pressing, right, or there's a miscommunication in terms of maybe the fullbacks going up and maybe not shifting over the 6 or center backs, right? These opponents are going to punish us. And we will see that happen, right, in these friendlies. So time will tell, but cohesion is really, really crucial to get everybody on the same page in terms of pressing, in terms of ball progression, and in terms of chances created, Austin.
Yeah, I think that's really one of the main takeaways, right? I think that's the most important one in my mind. I really want to see this team look like they've played together for a whole World Cup qualifying cycle, right? It's been most of the same players on the field that are in this camp. Obviously, we're missing a few people, but we got to look like we're a team that's played together for a long time. And I feel like we've started to do that well. So I have a lot of hope for that. But like you said, there's been a lot of inconsistency in the past, and recently there's been a little inconsistency as well. So
Austin, sorry to interrupt you, but think of how we ended against Costa Rica. That was kind of sour. But then you look back, Mexico away, didn't win, but played pretty fantastic in that game.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. That last window I think was a really good, it really encompassed what we've seen throughout the whole World Cup qualifying cycle, right? There's been high points where we've played really well as a team, but there's been a lot of low points where we've been very disjointed and it looks like we're on a different page on the field and even, sometimes with Greg Berhalter and what he's kind of throwing at players. So I actually had one more takeaway, Pat.
Yeah, let's hear it, Austin. Let's hear it.
And it's really related to this. So again, just thinking about how important this window is for World Cup. I think Greg Berhalter's game management needs to be on point, especially in these first two games. We've seen him wait to make substitutions. And again, this is a friendly, or both these games to start our friendlies. But I think, again, we got to treat them like they're World Cup games. I think we need to see him come out and approach these like that, right? And not come out and just kind of throw things at a wall, right? He's talked about, playing a 3 center back system maybe in 1 or 2 of these games, which I think we could do at the World Cup, but let's be intentional with it. Let's not just kind of take this as a test match. This is like, this is, in my opinion, a World Cup level match for us.
Yeah.
These first 2 games.
Agree.
So I just want to see him treat those appropriately, coach and manage in these games like these are competitions and competitive matches, right? Get a little fire on the sidelines, try and rally the team emotionally for these games and not just treat them kind of as friendlies. So that's kind of my last takeaway, Pat. Sorry, just throw that in there at the end.
No, I'm glad you did. I think that's a fantastic takeaway because not only is the players, right, it's the manager, it's a whole, the staff, it's everyone together collectively, right? Part of the USMNT. So yeah, because we have seen in the past, right? And that's been one of the criticisms, why Berhalter's been criticized is he has thrown crap against the wall, to be blunt, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the time for it anymore. This is it. We've qualified. This is the last tune-up essentially. And I think you have to treat these friendlies, right? You're going in, go aggressive, play to win here. Stick to kind of the game plans and don't kind of throw again, random subs in the last minute or change all these formations if things aren't working in a few minutes, right? Just want to see a little bit more consistency from him, right? And this will be a huge test, the biggest test of his managerial career.
Yeah. And honestly, I kind of want to see him do more in game. I feel like a lot of times he sets his team up and just lets them sit, right? And trust the process for better or worse. Yeah. I want to see him make some of those in-game adjustments. And, if we're getting overrun in midfield or if we're making, mistakes playing out of the back, right? Kind of changing that approach and not just sticking with, the same old approach and to the point where it becomes, easy to guess, right, from the other team. Like they know what's coming from us. Again, I really want to see him kind of break down these opponents. We always hear about how great he is with tactics and how he's such a, he uses a lot of, statistician, analytical guy, right? He uses a lot of analytics and how he, carries out his tactics, I guess. And I want to see it, right? I feel like we've seen some of it, but I really want to see him kind of approach these games in game with that mindset. And that's kind of my hopes for these games. So
to quickly add, Austin, you see it the best managers in the world, right? Something magic, right? In terms of maybe the right substitutes or again, maybe it's sending a few additional players forward or again, shifting slight formation or targeting one side of the pitch, right? In terms of diagonal balls or moving the ball quicker. And you can just sense, right, some of the best coaches and the best team, the magic, right, in the last 15, 20 minutes of games or even less, where kind of concerned, right, from what we've seen with Greg, if we're down 1-0, 2-0, right, or we're getting pressed pretty hard, do we feel as confident, right, that he can kind of inspire, right, and be creative enough to break down, some of those opponents when our backs are against the wall? So I'm curious to see if he can overcome that, have that kind of magic, right, that World Cup runner magic in the last 10, 15 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I fully agree. So I think that's all for episode today, guys. Let us know what you think about this upcoming, window. Let us know what you think we're going to do in the friendlies. Do you think we're going to get some wins? Do you think we're going to, get to see some of the players we're excited that got called up? And just leave us some feedback below.
Yeah, Austin, who's going to step up, right? Who are going to be these guys that booked their tickets as well to Qatar? And of course, the social media channels, right? Austin's killing on Instagram. Make sure you guys are tuning into the reels, right? The post there. Twitter, we're back on it as well. So feel free to interact with us there, as well as obviously YouTube here in the comments. So we'd love to hear more of your inputs here for future episodes.
Yeah, and this episode's also available in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. So check us out there. Leave us a review. We really appreciate it. And we also have a merch store. And Pat, I do hear we have maybe a second installment of our trophy shirt coming out in the next few weeks. So, slightly shorter list this year, but something we're excited to, offer again this year. I know we had some people buy the shirts last year, and we really appreciated that support. And Again, we wanted to create some merch that you guys, will appreciate and merch that honors our players, right, and commemorates the season. So keep an eye out for that coming up.
Yeah, you gotta love it. I'm excited. Definitely gonna cop one of those too from our own store. But yeah, guys, stay tuned there. It's gonna be really exciting, and hopefully, right, with these tune-up friendlies, the Nations League, we defend our title. We see some of these improvements, right? Some of these players step up, and maybe not just domestic cups, right? Maybe we can add another trophy to an even more impressive shirt down the line, Austin.
That's right, and maybe it'll happen in 2022. But read the cup, 2026 or bust.
Drop that mug.
That's right. One day we will win the World Cup.